Hi everyone, welcome to this interaction. At Plaksha University, it has been always our endeavor to bring exciting learning opportunities for high schoolers. We run so many such programs which really not only bring domain knowledge and concept knowledge to the participant, but they are also quite enriching in building their overall perspective towards education, towards career. So one of such endeavors which we have initiated is an academic research writing program. This program was conceptualized to allow high schoolers to understand what research writing is, what typically step-by-step journey is when you are kind of conceptualizing a problem into a research problem. And we ran a pilot of this program last winter, and it was a fantastic experience with over 45 students participating in it from almost 40 schools across the country. And it was quite an enthusiastic and overwhelming response we got. Building on that further, we now are thinking of running a in-campus edition of the same program, with much more to offer. It not only brings same research writing experience, but also adds modules around communication, and personality. So it has much more to offer. To talk about that and help us understand what this in-campus experience is going to look like, I have with me Dr. Brainerd Prince, who is a faculty for this program and is director for CTLC at Plaksha University, and he heads various initiatives related to language communication at Plaksha University. So happy to have you, Dr. Brainerd, and it's really exciting that we are talking about academic research writing program. So help me, let's start by understanding and kind of knowing your experience when you taught 45 kids last winter around academic research writing. How was it? How did it go?
Thanks, Pawan, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about this fantastic project that we could do over the winter, and also how that work is expanding into the summer. Academic research writing course, that's what we call it, and we offered it online to high school students. Now, research is something that has always been there in higher education, and particularly in the West, where universities demand students to be able to do independent research and be able to produce scripts after they have read intensively academic sources and be able to reproduce their own thinking and arguments. However, in the Indian education scenario, research has always slightly taken a back seat. I wonder why, though. Is it because of the Guru Shishya parampara, where the Guru is at the heart of the educational system and the students are here to just receive? I think if you look at our Indian texts, Smriti and Shruti, Smriti is that which is remembered when you're sitting at the footsteps of the Guru. So it's very interesting how perhaps historically it's been very teacher centric. But now the landscape of education has changed. It has to be learner centric. The learner has to be able to pick up things that's relevant for them, be able to access knowledge, be able to understand, as well as be able to articulate and write out their understanding. I think it is with this kind of background we instituted the ARWC course and offered it to high school students. We had 7 sessions with them. And Pawan, I must confess, it was such a great joy. And these were, 14-year-olds up to 17-year-olds. And they were able to take a problem in their world, in the real world, and then they were able to work with it and develop that problem from a real world problem to something of a problematic in the literature. So they located themselves within a literature discourse. They read a lot of, I think every student must have read at least 20 different peer reviewed journal articles. And then they were able to understand what the literature had to say about the problem, and they were able to compare and contrast the various proposals, the solutions that have been put forward by research in the past, look for gaps, literally following a traditional research journey, and then raising a research question to which they were able to conceptually look for a way forward. So I think that was the experience. So I would say the one thing that's different from a full-fledged research project and what we call as an academic research project is that they don't work with primary data. They don't go collect primary data or institute an experiment, but rather when they have found a gap and ask a research question, what they're doing is they're trying to look at secondary literature and trying to find out what solutions they can get from published works and then apply that as an argument in response to the question.
So that's really exciting, and it really looks quite amazing when especially we are talking about high schoolers doing it, and must have been a great journey, Brainerd. Now, since this program ran online, now we are thinking of doing it in campus, bringing them here for 9 days and, letting them kind of be in Plaksha, experience it live in person. How do you think it really, is different and is going to be bigger and better than the last version?
I think it's going to be a huge value addition. First of all, these are school students, high school students. They're going to come into a university setting. They're going to experience living in a university like a university student. They're going to experience classroom experiences like a university student again. They're actually going to have classes within the Center for Thinking, Language and Communication, the CTLC's studio and labs. So they would get an experience that a graduate student would get. So I would say that is the first big payoff for coming to campus. Secondly, they would also now, because they're going to live together for about 9 days, meet and engage with other students who have similar research interests. And I think we have to cultivate this culture of research amongst high school students. And this is the starting. It's probably a drop in the ocean, but still, I believe when these students from different parts of the country and the world, from different schools, come together and they're able to discuss ideas, they're able to have intellectual conversations, I think we are laying a great foundation for them to kind of get a culture of intellectual activity. Apart from that, they're going to have the regular ARWC course for research. They'll go through the sessions, they will be guided with personal mentorship and tutorials, and they will be handheld, one-on-one work, personalized work with them to develop their research project so that they could, at the end of the day, write 2,000-word papers. But along with that, I think the campus edition brings communication training. So every day they got long sessions of training in the CTLC's public speaking lab and conversation lab, where they are able to actually present their research vocally. They'll be taught how to do public speaking. They'll be taught about verbal, how to craft their content. They'll also be taught non-verbal communication, gestures and facial, expressions, voice, tonations, right, and all the technical stuff that has to do with communication training as well. And the end product this time is not just going to be a 2,000-word research paper and even a poster that they could make where others in the university could come and see. But along with that, they'll also learn how to create and deliver a pitch based on their research.
Excellent. I mean, that's really fantastic. And I must also add that campus editions have also much more to offer than the academic curriculum.
Right.
For example, in our other programs in YTS, we have a very elaborate evening calendar wherein they have sports, they have culture, they have talent nights, special dinners. So all this really brings that community together and allow them to work, learn, co-live with students from almost every part of the country. That's a very big learning because eventually they are going to go out in the world and be part of that community. So having that experience firsthand and beforehand really makes them much more equipped and mature to handle that. So that's, I think, also a big takeaway with the campus edition.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to meet similar minded students, students who may not be there in the same schools. Because every school may have just 2 or 3 students who are really interested in this niche activity of research. But when you look at it across the country, when these 2-3 students from different schools come together, then they're going to actually find people they would be excited to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. So that's really makes the learning much more enriching.
Right.
Brainerd, just wanted to ask another question, because this question comes every time when we talk to high school students, especially when they are not sure what kind of education they are going to pursue or career they are going to pursue after school. How does learning research adds to them? Like, is it really a important skill which should be learned at this age? And second, just attached to this is it not too early to learn research, or is it the right time?
Okay, I'll take the second question first. Absolutely not. I am a firm believer that every human being can learn these skills. These are just like skills of riding a bicycle. Uh, it just presupposes that you have language skills. We're not beginning with teaching you how to read and write, but once you have got that skills, and I want to say this confidently, the person could be in a second and third standard, as low as that. My youngest student with whom I began teaching research was in his fourth grade when I had my first conversation, and I actually taught him for many years. The reason why it's possible is all you're doing is enabling the student to cultivate a spirit of inquiry. And children and young students already possess that. It's us adults who are a bit jaded, who have answers for the question and say, oh, nothing is going to change. But when they are young, that curiosity is bubbling over. They are already inquisitive. They are asking questions. They are curious about the world. All we are doing is channelizing that energy.
Right.
Into a formal, structured approach. So we are really not trying to give them a competency that they don't possess, but we are channelizing that energy, channelizing that raw inquiry into a structured form. And to be honest, that's what research is. It's
Right.
search, but searching in a structured manner. So I would say that for high school students, not at all. The earlier, the better. But of course, we would say 8th grade is great, 13, 14. They have some exposure to the world. They have some experiences on which they can reflect.
Right.
So that would be a great place to start. You asked also about the value of this program in terms of how does it play out in the larger educational landscape. So today, a few things I would like to say. Number one, I think cultivating these research skills enables the student to critically understand their own desires and passions. You know, one of the things that in India, while parents are really moving towards giving autonomy and freedom to their children to choose their futures, still there's a lot of social influences. Your uncles say this, your cousins are doing that, subtle messaging, which is not wrong, which is great. I think students, when they are young, need all the advice, but they also need to make up their mind what they want to do, because otherwise they would get into an institution, but they would not give their full heart and mind, and the entire university journey can be lopsided and not really useful. So I think the first payoff is students developing critical skills to evaluate their own positions in life, even about their future education. Secondly, many of the universities, particularly abroad and premier universities in the country, require some sort of research experience today. The admissions require them to write an SOP at least, and they require them to show in case they have some published work or some essays written. So I think this is a fantastic way of building their portfolio so that they could actually be ready and they would have, some sort of advantage in terms of competition. Finally, I must mention this. Today's universities in the country and definitely in the Western world, they give high premium for doing independent research. And I can talk at depth with this. I'm closely associated with how some of these programs work at Oxford University, where I lived for over a decade. And it's all about library work. It's all about writing essays every week, 2,000-word essays every week for your courses and submitting to your professors who would give you feedback. So you spend less time in a classroom and a lot more time in the library. And so you need to have those skills. So I usually say this, perhaps Indian families now have the financial provision to send their students abroad. The students have the, their marks, grades that qualifies them
to be there.
To be there. But the bigger question is, do they have the skills to thrive in the university? And I think research skills are fundamental skills. And hopefully this will give them a leg above their peers.
Right, absolutely. And we are increasingly seeing the best universities valuing this and encouraging research at undergrad level itself so that they really have that orientation at the beginning. Now, this is very, pleasing to know that they can learn research skills at this stage. But then when I'm a high schooler, I have my own interests. Could be interested in psychology. I could be interested in quantum physics. It's more fantasies than interest, right? I may be more concerned about inequality in society. So to that extent, their research interests could vary significantly in terms of disciplines they belong to. And this program would have students who would have all these varied interests. How do they really fit into one class? And is this journey equally enriching for everyone, be it a humanities focused research or a tech focused research or a science focused research?
I think that's a great question. And the simple answer is this: we are not primarily concerned about the what of research. What do they want to research on? We are primarily concerned about how to research. So, in a sense, the classroom gets crafted because everyone sitting there needs to learn how to research. So when you think of those workshops where they are together as a group, they are learning together the skills, you could even call them meta skills, that every researcher must have in terms of reflection, in terms of reading, in terms of thinking critically, in terms of writing, in terms of structuring, and going through a pathway of research. So in some sense, that's what the program does in its workshops. But in order to ensure that every student's interest and personalized interest is fulfilled, we back these tutorials, these workshops with tutorials. And these tutorials are run by PhD students who are subject matter experts. These are, or even, other academics who have domain expertise. And what we do is we kind of align, like in any other research projects, we align our tutors to students who have similar interests. And therefore, they really get a lot of hand-holding in the tutorials. And I've heard some fantastic stories from our tutors that some tutors said, we found the subject matter so fascinating, I ended up reading 6 to 8 new articles on that. So our tutors are handpicked for their love for research, subject matter expertise, and also the ability to guide and mentor students.
Right. Excellent. And last question, which is around who this program is for. How would you kind of describe an ideal participant for this program?
Right. I would say upfront that language skills are important.
Right.
This is not the place to learn English, learn the basics of how to read and write. Right. That is the only prerequisite in terms of hard prerequisite, that they are fluent in English. So that's number one. But apart from that, any student who has curiosity, any student who is reflecting on life, who seeks to make a contribution, they would enjoy this course much more. But I want to say this because students are also products of their environments. So there might be certain households and schools, perhaps in our country still, where students are told to sit, keep quiet, write down what the teacher is saying. And so they have not been able to express themselves or even be curious. So even for those students, I would say, send them here and we would help them to ignite the curiosity within them. So at this point, I would say if someone is proficient in their English language, they're able to read and write well, and they're curious at whatever degree, and parents want to help them to get more curious, to develop that natural curiosity into a research project, then this is the program for them.
Right. Excellent, Brainerd, and this is really going to prepare them for much bigger goal, much bigger life, which is about to come. And I would also like to just kind of closing by saying that all our high school program offerings have been designed to give a very high quality experience and exposure to the students. Of course, they learn some academic, curriculum, which is the core of it, but that's not really, the only thing which they take away. It is much more than that, and they come prepared in terms of perspective, in terms of their personality, and in terms of their competence to take on the bigger challenges, bigger programs, and bigger goals in life. And Plaksha as a university, I must say it's a very beautiful campus, very safe campus. They live in our regular hostel. It's a twin sharing accommodation, very, very liked by our own students, and they would really have a very fun time being here with us for 9 days in this summer. So looking forward to all the students from all across the country to be with us and participate and enjoy this exciting journey in the world of research, language, and thinking. And we are happy to be with you on this journey. Thank you.